So interbeing, what an interesting phrase. Thich Nhat Hanh was the one who created that phrase. And it's been rolling around in my mind for a while, but it's only until recently that I've actually come to understand it. And it's truly, truly profound. So I'm going to go back for a little bit to science and what science tells us about how life happens. Every cell is conscious, and every collection of cells, which we call a being, is also conscious. And I'm going to use the phrase self to talk about those. So the world is filled with billions and trillions of cells. Each self is tasked with only a couple of things. The first thing is to live. And then the second thing is to procreate. So living means that every experience that self has that's outside of itself or not itself has to answer two questions. Is this good for me or is this bad for me? And then the appropriate action is taken. That sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? But when we talk about it, we often think of ourselves as a self or a self doing this, but it's all selves doing it all the time with each other. And that is interbeing. It is so amazing to think about because every experience we have, and I'm going to go to people right now, every experience a person has with something that is not yourself, itself, myself, is other than itself, you're making that choice. Should I engage with it? Should I run away from it? Should I protect myself from it? What should I do? And sometimes we hold that in abeyance. We don't do anything. We need more information to actually take an action. But that in itself is an action and a choice, and that creates a world. It creates that possibility in reality because our actions follow those decisions. And we don't do it by ourselves. We're more conscious of our own choices, but when we're interacting with another person, they're making exactly the same choices and decisions that you are. So together, you decide how to interact with each other. And out of those choices comes the world you create together. Isn't that wonderful? It's so delicious. And it's so awesome and so incredibly profound. So we have choice. We have agency in our own choices, how we respond and how we respond to the other. We have no control over the other's choices or the other's response. But we can exert control where we can exert it, which is right here. And in doing so, that's how we determine our world. We can be fearful. We can decide we're being attacked. We can question. We have a range of responses to every stimulation, to every interaction that we have. And we choose from that range. And sometimes we get into habits, so we really narrow our range. We don't give ourselves a lot of options. And I think that's one of the big takeaways from understanding that this is how the world works, is that the more options we have for our interactions, the more worlds we can create, the more opportunities we make possible for ourselves. And we do that. And part of the ways we do that has to do with language, how we talk to ourselves about that situation. So if somebody says, well, I think that it would be really a good idea for you to think about this, and your mind says they're telling me what to do, that's one opportunity, one possibility. If they say, well, I think it would be nice if you thought about this, and you go, oh, they're really wanting my input, that is another world and another possibility. That's the kind of control we have in our interbeing. We only control our own piece of it, but we can control that. And everybody else is taking their cues from us, at least to some extent. They have the same options. They can have the same limitations. They may have a deep understanding or a shallow understanding, just as you might have a deep or a shallow understanding. But it's in those interactions, in that relationship, that we co-create the worlds we live in through interbeing. He was so insightful to see and understand that. And when we think of that in terms of the natural world, what is the interbeing that happens there? Because it's just as true. Are you afraid in the woods? Are you joyful in the woods? Are you curious in the woods? Are you in the woods, or are you somewhere else in your head, way off here? All of those shape your experience, shape your understanding of what the world is, and your relationship to it, how much attention you pay to the animal life that's around you in the forest, whether you recognize the trees and the plants, whether you call them by name, whether you feel their kin, whether you listen to what they might have to say to you. All of those are ways that you create the world you live in. So there's not a way, there's not only one kind of possibility, and you can change your mind, you can change the way you're thinking about it. You can do something different. You can get out of habits and co-create in a very different way and have a different experience. You know, it's so hard because we believe that what we think is real and the truth. And we get, really resistant to it being any other way. How could it possibly be any other way? But the joy of life is that it can be another way. And sometimes if you don't know how it is, you can ask somebody and get another opinion and another point of view. That's the deliciousness of diversity. When we include it, new options open up to us that we have had no idea of as being possible or even in existence. Isn't it fun to think about interbeing in this way? That we are very unconsciously, I think, but very absolutely co-creating the world this way. It can't be any other way. And so the world, a friend said to me this morning that oh, and I'm not going to get her name right, so it's on the tip of my tongue. One of the scientists said that the world isn't a being, she's a possibility actualizing. And that is true. And we're all that. We're not beings, we're actualities coming into being, possibilities that are being born every second of every minute. And that's vibrant and exciting and creative and all those things, if we just let go and let it happen, instead of trying to block things from happening or being afraid that they're going to happen. Interbeing is such a delight and such a joy. So I'm pleased to share that with you today. Thanks. Join me on my website, bridgetopartnership.com, and join the community, the Coming Home Project. There's a link on my website. And listen to the podcast, Awakening to Gaia's Voice. Talk to you soon.